What happens when you disrespect the wrong person? This receptionist was about to find out the hard way. There's something about flying through the night that forces you to think. You stare out of the tiny oval window at nothing. Maybe see your own reflection. Maybe see nothing at all. That's where Monica Ellison was, somewhere between reflection and nothing, as her red-eye flight started descending over Tulsa. She was tired. Not the kind of tired sleep could fix, but the kind that comes from always being on. Always being the one in charge, the one making the decisions, the one everyone's watching, waiting to see if you'll fall. But today, Monica wasn't thinking about falling. Today, she was focused on opportunity. Her company, Blue Slate Systems, had been quietly dominating the automation space for the last 5 years. No investors, no corporate handholding, just smart moves, clean code, and sheer grit. And now she was ready to expand, maybe even acquire. The boutique marketing firm she was about to visit had been on her radar for months. Smart branding team, niche clients, just enough chaos in the leadership to make them undervalued. She never told them she was coming. Monica believed in walking through the front door unannounced. See how people treat you when they think you're nobody. That always said more than any presentation or pitch deck ever could. It was just past 7:30 a.m. when she stepped out of her Uber and stood in front of Darrow Creative Group, a tall glass building tucked into the corner of downtown Tulsa near Boston Avenue. The sun was barely up, painting long shadows on the sidewalk. Most of the offices were still dark inside. She adjusted her hoodie. Her logo, just a small white dot inside a slate blue square, was stitched over her heart. Jeans, beat-up Converse, carry-on bag over one shoulder. Monica looked more like a coder crashing a startup conference than a CEO ready to write a $6 million check. She didn't care. Walking into the lobby, she took in the polished floors, the soft jazz leaking from hidden speakers, the oversized art on the walls that tried a little too hard to scream, "We're different." But what really stood out was the young woman behind the reception desk. Mid-20s maybe. Ponytail, acrylic nails, scrolling through her phone like nothing outside the screen mattered. Monica stepped up to the desk and waited. Nothing. The receptionist didn't even flinch. "Good morning," Monica said, calm and steady. "I'm here to see—" "Deliveries go around back," the woman cut in, not looking up. Monica blinked. "Sorry?" "Back for deliveries." "You're early anyway," she added, still staring down at her phone. "They don't take walk-ins." Monica kept her tone even. "I'm not here for a job interview. I have a meeting." Now the receptionist looked up, just for a second, and made a face. A quick once-over. Hoodie, sneakers, black woman. Then she scoffed, almost laughed. "Right, of course. A meeting." There was no sarcasm in Monica's face, no anger, just silence. The kind that makes people uncomfortable. The receptionist, sensing maybe she'd gone a little too far, threw up her hand. "Look, I don't know who you think you're here to see, but you can't be up here. You need to leave." Monica stood there for a beat longer. She could have dropped a name, pulled out her business card, said something slick. She didn't. She turned around and walked straight back out the door. But what felt like a minor annoyance to one person was about to become the beginning of a storm that would wreck everything they were trying to save. The receptionist, whose name was Taryn, slid her AirPods back in and went right back to scrolling TikTok. Another person with an ego, she thought. Probably someone trying to sell handmade candles or pitch some broke idea with a half-finished website. People showed up all the time trying to hustle their way through the front door. She wasn't trying to be mean, just doing her job. At least, that's what she told herself. Outside, Monica stood on the sidewalk. Cars passed. A breeze tugged at her hoodie. She glanced at her phone, not out of stress, just to check the time. 7:42 a.m. Still early. She wasn't mad. Not really. Disappointed? Sure. But more than anything, she was reminded of something her grandfather once told her when she was a kid trying to sell homemade bookmarks door to door back in Fort Worth. You can learn everything about a company by how they treat people who can't do anything for them. She slipped her phone back into her hoodie pocket and opened her Uber app again. There were always options. Back inside, upstairs on the 14th floor, the Darrow creative team was starting to trickle in. Kenji Morris, the firm's founder and head of strategy, stepped off the elevator sipping a green smoothie, talking to his assistant about client decks. "Did Monica Ellison confirm?" he asked, adjusting the cuffs on his shirt. "She said she'd be in sometime this morning." his assistant replied. No exact time. Okay, good. Let me know the second she walks in. This could literally change everything for us. He wasn't exaggerating. Their numbers had been dipping for 6 straight quarters. Clients were going quiet, and the internal team was splintering. Too many big egos, not enough leadership. Monica's offer could bring order, funding, and that magic reputation Blue Slate carried in the tech world. Kenji walked into the glass-walled conference room confident. He knew this meeting was do or die. He also knew Monica was known for being unpredictable but fair. All they had to do was show they were worth the investment. By 8:15, the whole leadership team was in the building. Decks were loaded, coffee was poured. Kenji was rehearsing his opening pitch in his head when his assistant poked her head into the room. She's not here yet? Kenji frowned. What do you mean? She's not downstairs? No one's checked in at the front desk. I just called Taryn. Call her again. They did, twice. Still nothing. At 8:34 a.m., Kenji personally took the elevator down to the lobby. He spotted Taryn chewing gum and scrolling as usual. Did a woman come in earlier? He asked. Black woman, mid-30s, hoodie with a small white logo on it, came in with a carry-on bag. Taryn squinted. I mean, yeah. I sent her around back. She didn't say anything about a meeting. Kenji's face drained. Wait, did she say her name? She didn't give it, Taryn shrugged. She looked like delivery or like one of those, tech people who think they can just walk in. Kenji didn't answer. He just stood there. He pulled out his phone and checked his messages. Nothing. No missed calls, no emails, no texts. He tried calling Monica's direct line, straight to voicemail. Back in the elevator, Kenji leaned against the wall, heart thudding, hands sweating. He knew what just happened and how bad it was. At 8:52 a.m., while the Darrow team was still scrambling to figure out how to reach her, Monica was sitting calmly at another office, 10 blocks away. Different firm, similar size, bigger potential. One of Darrow's direct competitors, same opportunity, different attitude. But what Kenji didn't know was that this wasn't the first time Monica had been misjudged, and this time, she had no reason to stick around and give second chances. By 9:10 a.m., the conference room on the 14th floor was dead quiet. No jokes, no side chatter, just the hum of a laptop fan and the sinking realization that something irreversible had happened. Kenji stood at the head of the table, staring at his untouched notes. His usual bounce, gone. The team watched him, waiting for direction, but he didn't know what to say. This wasn't just a no-show. This was a message. He cleared his throat. Okay, so obviously something went wrong, but before we panic, let's try reaching out again. Alyssa, you said you've emailed her twice? His assistant nodded. No response. I left a voicemail too, and I double-checked. We did confirm this meeting, last week. Everyone glanced at each other, the air thick with unspoken tension. Andre Keller, head of business development, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. This isn't about confirmation, he said. Somebody screwed up downstairs. That's what happened. All eyes turned to Kenji. He sighed and rubbed his eyes. Taryn said she thought Monica was delivery. Silence. Then Shelby Tran, their brand director, narrowed her eyes. Wait, she what? She didn't recognize her. Told her to go around back. Shelby dropped her pen on the table. You're kidding me. I wish I was. Andre stood up. Okay, so what are we doing just sitting here? This deal was our last shot at keeping this place from going under. Let's just slow down, Kenji started, but Andre cut him off. No, Kenji, let's not slow down. Let's talk facts. We've got less than 3 months of cash left. Half our clients are ghosting us. We've laid off 7 people in 2 months, and you told Monica this morning was critical. And now she's ghosting us? Shelby slammed her laptop shut. If someone had treated me like a nobody in the lobby, I wouldn't come back either. Kenji didn't argue. He couldn't. He looked down at his notes again, carefully written bullet points about alignment, synergy, growth. All useless now. He checked his phone one more time. Still nothing. Meanwhile, Monica sat in a quiet corner office with Derek Shaw, founder of a smaller but fast-growing firm called Sparrow plus Slate. They'd been on her radar for a while too, but they hadn't made the top of the list until this morning. Derek, dressed in a black t-shirt and slacks, leaned forward, elbows on the table. So, what made you change your mind? Monica smiled faintly. Let's just say, someone reminded me how much first impressions matter. Derek grinned. Fair enough. She liked Derek. He didn't oversell. He listened. His team had greeted her at the door, even offered her breakfast. Nobody had asked her to prove who she was, and that was everything. By 9:45, Kenji was back in his office, door shut, blinds down. His laptop open to a spreadsheet that no longer mattered. And out in the lobby, Taryn was still on her phone, chewing her gum, unaware that her two-sentence brush-off had just cost the company everything they were fighting to hold on to. But this wasn't just about one bad decision. Because for Monica, what happened at that front desk was about something much deeper, something that had been building for years. Monica hadn't always been CEO Monica. There was a time not that long ago when she was just another name on a list, another applicant, another quiet voice in a loud room that never stopped to listen. Back in 2009, she was living in a small apartment in Topeka, Kansas, working two jobs, one at a grocery store and the other cleaning offices on the weekends. Every night, she stayed up teaching herself how to code on an old cracked laptop she'd found at a pawn shop. Nobody handed her anything. She learned by building ugly websites for local barbershops, messy JavaScript, buttons that barely worked. But each project got better, cleaner. She picked up freelance gigs, started reading startup forums at night like they were gospel, what some folks called obsession. She called survival. Her first real break came in 2013 when she got hired as a junior developer at a company in Wichita. They paid her $38,000 a year. She felt like she'd made it. But even then, it was clear. People like her, black, young, woman, no Ivy League background, had to work twice as hard just to be seen. There were times she'd walk into client meetings and get mistaken for the assistant, or the intern, or worse, ignored completely. She'd introduce herself and watch as people looked right past her, but Monica didn't complain. She watched, she learned, and she kept notes. Every time she got dismissed, disrespected, or downplayed, she added it to a list in her phone, not as fuel for anger, just a reminder of who she didn't want to become if she ever got the chance to be on the other side of the table. In 2016, she launched Blue Slate Systems out of a co-working space in Albuquerque, New Mexico. No funding, no mentors, just an idea to make automation tools that small businesses could actually afford. Most people didn't take her seriously until they had to. Within 3 years, her tools were being used by over 12,000 companies. Quiet growth, no fluff, just results. She never forgot how it felt to be ignored, which is why the incident in that Tulsa lobby didn't surprise her. Not really. Monica wasn't angry because someone made a mistake. She was disappointed because the mistake was made by someone who should have known better, someone who could have been her 10 years ago, someone who had the chance to see her and chose not to. And deep down, what hurt the most wasn't the disrespect. It was the pattern, still happening, still automatic. She'd walked into that building prepared to give Darrow Creative a second life, and they'd met her with indifference. She didn't want pity. She didn't even need the deal. But she believed in rewarding people who treated others right, even when they didn't know who was watching. That belief was what led her to Derek Shaw's office that morning. And Derek? He didn't waste time. He offered her coffee, asked her real questions, didn't try to sell her on big dreams, just told her the truth about where they were, what they needed, and what they could do together. That's what Monica respected. By 10:20 a.m., they were already talking numbers. Meanwhile, back at Darrow Creative, Kenji was rewriting his own internal pitch, not to Monica, but to his board, trying to buy time, trying to explain what couldn't be undone. But time wasn't on his side anymore, because Monica was about to make a move that no amount of backpedaling could fix. By noon, the contract was already in draft. Monica didn't play games. She moved fast when her gut told her something was right. And everything about Sparrow plus Slate felt right. The numbers weren't as flashy as Darrow's, but the energy was different, fresh, hungry, real. Derek Shaw leaned back in his chair, eyes wide as he scrolled through the outline of Monica's offer. "Wait," he said slowly. "You're serious?" Monica looked up from her cup of tea. "You said you wanted to scale." I do. I just didn't think it'd happen today." She gave a small shrug. "Timing isn't always convenient, but it's usually honest. Derek nodded, still stunned. Her offer was simple: full acquisition of his company with room for him and his core team to stay on and lead their new division. No layoffs, no takeover drama, just growth with purpose. The only thing she asked in return? Respect. For people, for process, for potential, no matter what form it walks in wearing. Derek signed the letter of intent an hour later. Across town, panic had turned into damage control. Kenji had been calling everyone he knew, trying to get someone, anyone, to reach Monica. He even went as far as DMing her on LinkedIn, which he hadn't used in months. Still no response. Shelby knocked on his office door around 1:30, holding her phone. "You need to see this," she said, walking in without waiting for permission. She turned the screen toward him. It was a tweet. From Monica. Just 6 words. "Treat everyone like they own the place." Under it, a photo. The skyline view from Sparrow plus Slate's conference room. No tags, no drama. Just a quiet flex. Kenji stared at it for a long time. It wasn't just a missed meeting anymore. It was a message, and everyone in their industry would see it. By 3:00 p.m., rumors were flying. People in their network started whispering about the failed acquisition, about the cold reception, about Monica's walkout. Clients were texting Shelby, asking what was going on. Internally, the team knew it was over. Andre had already emailed his resume to 3 different agencies. Taryn? She hadn't even realized she was at the center of it all until Shelby pulled her into a side meeting. "You know the woman you brushed off this morning?" Shelby asked, arms folded. "Yeah. Why?" "That was Monica Ellison." Taryn blinked. "Like, the Monica Ellison?" "Yes." The silence was brutal. Taryn's face turned pale. She fumbled for words, but nothing came. No apology, no excuse would matter now. She tried to laugh it off at first, said it wasn't personal, that she didn't know. But Shelby wasn't having it. You don't get to not know. Not when your job is to see people. Back in her office, Monica finished her last meeting of the day and leaned back in her chair. The sun was starting to dip, casting long shadows on the wall. She'd made her decision. The paperwork was moving. And Darrow? Darrow was no longer a concern, not because of revenge, because it was never about them to begin with. It was about staying true to what built her success in the first place, knowing her worth, and walking away when others don't. But while Monica had already moved forward, Darrow Creative was about to learn just how expensive a small moment of disrespect can be. 2 weeks later, the cracks at Darrow Creative Group were no longer hidden. They were front and center. Clients had started pulling back, slowly at first, 1 or 2 postponed campaigns. Then 3 bigger accounts suspended their retainers. Nobody said Monica's name, but everyone in the industry heard what happened. They always do. In the digital world, reputations are like glass. One careless drop, and everyone watches the pieces scatter. Kenji tried to hold the team together. He organized emergency strategy meetings, called in consultants, even offered Taryn a chance to apologize directly. But it was too late. Monica never responded. Not to his calls, not to his emails, not even when he showed up at a tech conference in Phoenix, hoping to catch her face to face. She wasn't there, because Monica didn't need to say anything. Her silence was louder than any press release. At Sparrow plus Slate, the energy was different. Teams were busy. New hires were onboarding. Monica's face showed up in trade articles and newsletters under headlines like "Blue Slate expands with unexpected acquisition" and "A lesson in leadership from Monica Ellison." Nobody at her new office needed a reminder to treat guests well. It was understood. Back at Darrow, Taryn's desk sat empty. After everything exploded, she stopped showing up. No email, no goodbye, just disappeared. HR tried reaching out, but she was done. Probably out there somewhere, telling a different version of the story, one where she wasn't the villain. But inside those glass walls, people remembered. The firm laid off another 5 employees the following month. Investors backed out. Kenji stepped down to pursue other ventures, but everyone knew he didn't jump. He got pushed. Shelby found a job with another agency in San Diego. Andre moved back to the East Coast. Alyssa left the industry completely. Darrow Creative didn't close overnight, but within 6 months, it was no longer Darrow. A private equity group bought out the scraps and folded it into a bland digital consultancy. The name didn't survive, and neither did the culture. But Monica? She didn't celebrate. She didn't throw shade. Didn't tweet any "I told you so." She just kept building. One morning, during a podcast interview, the host asked her if she ever regretted not giving Darrow a second chance. Monica paused, then smiled. "You don't get a second chance to show people basic respect," she said. "It's not about the deal, it's about the moment. That little moment when someone has a choice to be decent, and they don't take it. I don't need apologies, I just pay attention." She let the words sit, then added, "That's the real test of a company's values, not their website, not their branding, just how they treat people when they think no one's watching." It wasn't bitterness, it was clarity, because Monica never needed revenge. She had something far more powerful, options. And sometimes, the quietest walkaway leaves the loudest echo. Here's the thing, we all have moments when we underestimate someone, maybe because of how they look, how they talk, how they dress. But the truth is, you never know who's on the other side of that elevator ride or that front desk. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect, it can cost everything. So treat people right, especially when you think it won't matter, because it always does. If this story made you pause, made you reflect even a little, share it. You never know who might need this reminder today.